Hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to another episode of Quran Lessons for the Infidel. This is our third attempt to get through Surah 5. We don't have the apologist here for whatever reason today. And when we do, we find that it takes a little bit longer to get through these because we have, of course, a conflicting opinion on what each surah says. But I think we're going to be all in consensus today, it looks like, at least for a bit. So, Bogey, you have your notes. Yep.
Indeed, I still have my notes.
We were supposed to be done with this, done with the Quran by now. It was all finished. I was going to be done with Surah 9 and 110. It was all, but I'm happy that we're still continuing.
Yeah, the thing is, there is a lot to unpack
Unfold.
here. There's a lot of unpacking to be done here, and a lot of these verses in this surah are quite long. Some of them are completely devoid of any meaningful reason to exist apart from filler. But some of the verses are quite important and significant, and they are influencing the lives of Muslims today. Um, One of them, which we probably did not give it a fair discussion when it happened, is 5:2, which is an abrogated verse. And the abrogation hits the part where to how to treat those people who will stop you from going to the uh, to the Kaaba to perform the Hajj, right?
Hmm.
So the basic idea is that the verse says, well, you know what, don't hate them too much, whatever. But this is obviously abrogated by 9:5, um, for obvious reason, because it speaks about what to do with the infidels doing things, refusing you the access to the Kaaba. Well, have at them with the tip of the sword, right? So that deal happened then and there, and it's not for today anymore. So the next verse we need to stop at is 38. 5:38. This is the verse we stopped at the last time. So this verse is about cutting the hands of the thief. This is very uncivilized, but that's not the only problem with it. The really big issue here is, here you are, the creator of the universe and people and everything else, right? You are posing a remedy to a societal ill, which is stealing stuff, right? Generally, humans don't like that when it happens. And you are posting the remedy to that is to cut the hands of the thief off. Well, one hand at a time. This is such an obtuse solution to a problem that if you had this book opened until this point, you should close it and put it away and never read it again. You don't need to read anything in this book if this is the solution to theft. Okay.
Well,
Um,
just to be fair, just to be fair, like the majority of the countries, Arabic countries, Islamic countries, doesn't follow this rule anymore. They put
that's
people in
right.
prison, but there are still countries who do that. And
Yes.
to be, yeah, and to also there's a something else. I don't know if it's in Sunnah, but in Shia, you just cut not the hand, that's the fingers, because even the thief should be able to pray, and the prayer, you have to put your hands like saluting gods on your head, the prayer. So they cut only the fingers, not the whole palm even, they're just the fingers. It's still brutal. I'm just telling you what's happening.
Yeah. So, due to the nature of the fact that most people, I'm not, that's not all the people who do steal things, they do it because of financial necessity.
Right.
Okay. Like, I don't know if we can make an 80-20% comparison here. but let's call it an 80% because of some sort of a financial necessity. Doesn't have to go absolute poverty per se. People steal things, they're well off, they still steal things because these are things that are more expensive and they still can't afford them, even though they are well off. So people steal cars. Well, you're not you're not obviously you're not down to eating food when you steal a car, right? So who's got the noise?
Sorry, me. I'll
Okay, so that when you cut the hand of somebody who is stealing because they can't make enough money, they don't have enough as for a living, you reduce their ability to fend for themselves. Rehabilitation becomes impossible when you do this. It may not become completely impossible. There might still be a way, but you made it a lot more difficult. You did not help when you implement this. And we
Hello.
have hello, hello,
hi.
I'm
and
sorry coming late.
we've seen it before in the Quran that you have to actually follow all the rules of the Quran, not just some of
But
them.
but but Spogi, it doesn't matter if you stole a mansion or you stole if a loaf of bread. The concept of cutting your hands, literally, like if being decapitated, being without with a severe losing an arm or a hand is so tough. You can't when you cut my hand, even if I want to go in direct ways, I want to be an honest human being, I won't anymore because I can't work anymore with my
Right,
hands.
right.
So I'm even if I stole a mansion, put me in prison, I don't know what, but cutting my hands will never make me a better human being.
Right.
Yeah, I
So
think we were in consensus about this before, and that one is because there's no way for rehabilitation, and two, there's no kind of justice that can come out of it. If if you're a thief and you are sentenced to hard labor, effectively slavery, since the Quran endorses that. If you are sentenced to labor to make up for, or to pay to have some compensation for the people that you stole from, whatever, that's at least some kind of retribution that's justified. But if they cut your hands off or kill you, then what good comes of it? And there's no way that you can turn yourself around, and we would have to think that a god would be smart enough to know this.
no, this one wasn't. This one wasn't. So that was 38. The next segment is 541 and 550. How to rule over the people of the book and the unbelievers. You rule by Islamic rules and laws, not their corrupted, ungodly systems. This is a long and rant set for verses, though. So the point of this segment is it tries to elucidate to what kind of laws should you implement when you have a society where not everyone is a Muslim. Okay, let's see, we have non-believers, we have Hindus, we have Christians, we have Jews. How do you rule over them? So the gist of this set of verses is that you rule over them by the Islamic book, which is the Quran. So you don't rule over them according to the Bible. So those special religiously family law court systems, Islam doesn't endorse those. So that's the segment here that it talks about that.
But there's something also about this segment.
Yes.
Not only God uh, uh, judges you and upon your deeds, also upon your thoughts. and upon your what you feel, your
Yes.
feelings. So I might be homosexual, which is big no-no in Islam, but I'm not doing anything. I'm not activating my homosexuality, but I'm thinking about it. It's the same thing as doing it. So I'm gonna be judged both ways. So judging the feelings
You're cutting off.
it's going to hell both ways. So judging the sorry,
Yeah, I don't know about that
judging the
because
feelings and the soul.
I always heard, Diana, that as long as you don't act on your homosexuality, you're good. That makes any sense.
No,
And I heard some
No.
no.
very different
Yeah.
things when I was in Dubai. They told me that that one of the things that these Emiratis would comment on would be that men are for pleasure and women are for procreation. And I was surprised to hear that. So okay, so you tolerate homosexuality, you just don't call it that.
I don't think that's what they meant, but okay.
Okay.
Um, so we go to 51, 551, and that's basically says Muslims should not take Jews or Christians as leaders of rulers for themselves. Um,
Wait, I
ah,
wanna go 49 first.
yeah, go ahead.
48.
Okay.
Uh, I have it in Arabic, so 49. وأن أحكم بينكم بما أنزل الله ولا تتبع أهواءكم واحذرهم أن يفتنوك عن بعض ما أنزل الله إليك فأن okay, it's talking about you should follow the word of the God and don't follow your temptations.
Yes.
And lots of people are bad people. That's what the verse says. So just saying for the apologist is not here. Just
Yeah,
saying.
it is within the block of 41 to 50. And yes,
Mm,
it basically reiterates. Yeah, it's a very ranty segment, but it
yeah.
keeps on reiterating that you rule on the people with the book
Mm.
of Allah, which is the Quran, and not what they have corrupted along the years, because Islam does
Yeah.
not consider the current state of the Torah and the current state of the Bible to be legitimate.
I love what it says in Tafsir Ibn Kathir. It says uh, the part that be wary that they're gonna deceive you from some of what God divine to you. It says in the Tafsir, be wary of your enemies, the Jews. The poor Jews, they are always the reason of everything bad.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, 51 will say that too.
Yep.
Uh,
51, Muslims should not take Jews or Christians as leaders or rulers. Those who do become part of them, and we know what that means.
So
In
all
the
Okay.
in
Lebanese
the in the
people are
60s,
going.
in the
Wait,
60s, Tom Lehrer, a Harvard professor, used to do a bunch of songs, parody songs, ridiculing the times. And one of them is in one of the song lyrics, he says that the Protestants hate the Catholics hate the Protestants, and the Hindus hate the Muslims, and everybody hates the Jews.
as Christopher Hitchens said, no one will forgive them for denying two in a row.
Yeah.
well, ironically, our president in Lebanon should should be a Christian, a Maronite, in precise, a Maronite Christian. So therefore, all Lebanese people are going to hell.
That's by the law, right?
Yes, and we're still fighting within each other about religions, but we're going all to hell. We have a Christian leader. Oh my gosh. Yeah, what the fuck?
Okay, so 50. Actually, the next note is 60
Uh,
if anybody has anything before that.
I did. Okay, Let me see it. Okay. Okay. So DKK, I want to say that is Korean. I don't know. I don't know. It's Danish. Okay. Thank you very much. 50 kroner. So thank you for that, Benny Olesen.
Yeah. There is no message in it, though. So
Yeah.
60 is the next stop. We have 53. 55.
Okay. Say, shall I tell you who deserves a worse punishment from God than the one you wish upon us? Those God distanced from himself, was angry with and condemned as apes and pigs, and those who worship idols. They are worse in rank and have strayed further from the right path.
Yeah.
And
Those
doesn't it say here that God has decided that they're going to be that God has distanced them?
and made them into monkeys and pigs.
Yeah, he morphed them. Some
Yes.
of the Jews and
There is a
Christians.
literal silly
Story.
potty. There is a silly potty thing going on here.
Okay.
There's a story about make God turning the Jews to monkeys and pigs, turning human beings into monkeys and pigs.
Yeah, I thought I saw that on Willow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Falcor is enjoying the show, though.
Yeah, I love that. I love that we have Quran recitation in the
Yes.
background. So it's so fitting.
Yep. 72 is my next stop, unless you have a note before that.
My next note is at 80. So we're
Okay,
good.
72. Those who say God is the Messiah, son of Mary, have defied God. The Messiah himself said, "Children of Israel, worship God, my Lord and your Lord. If anyone associates others with God, God will forbid him from the garden, and hell will be his home. No one will help such evildoers."
You know what the word being used in 72 for defied God?
Kafara.
Kafara. I
Kafara.
get. Yes.
Kafara. Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Where is this?
kafara in this case means unbeliever or
Disbelieved. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Disbelief.
it's the verb of kafir. So he became a kafir. It's the past tense.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
became kafir when they said
Jesus
Jesus is
Son
God.
of
is God.
Maryam is the Messiah.
okay.
So
No, he said Jesus is God.
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So this is we didn't get to this one the last time because we had this interesting
Debate.
discussion about what percentage of the Christians or the Trinitarian Christians
Yeah.
have disbelieved and what percentage of them are going to go to hell
Well,
for it.
the rest of the Christians who doesn't say that Jesus is God, and the other Christians, there are in verse 73 who say
Right.
that God is three.
Yeah,
So
please
all
help me.
Christianity.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry for
Sorry,
interrupting.
it's okay. I'm saying all Christianity are going to hell. Every one of them, with all
Ex-
the sects.
Except that I learned recently that Christians, they don't say there's three gods. They say
No.
there's one God but three forms. So
Yeah,
they
but
even that part the Quran didn't get it wrong. Correct.
Yeah, but I mean,
not
getting
not
the
really.
Holy Trinity
Be- uh,
correctly is
Let me.
hard even for modern day Christians.
No, but even the modern day Christians, and I live in a Christian country. So let's say, like they say, الآب والابن والروح القدس, God,
Yeah.
the Son, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and they're all one. إله واحد. They say الآب والابن والروح القدس إله واحد آمين. So the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit as one God. Amen. That's what they say. So it's not wrong here.
Also, isn't the Trinity as the Islam understand it? It's the Son, the Father, and the Mother Mary. That's what I always thought when I was a Muslim. I thought that Trinity meant God, the Father, the Son, and Mother Mary.
No,
No,
no, it
no.
was never like this.
The
Not in
Trinitarian
Islam.
says the Father
No,
is God, the Son is Jesus, and the Holy
yes,
Spirit is
Yeah.
super magic. Right?
I
Okay.
just got
no. In
confirmation.
Islam,
I just
sorry.
got confirmation that I'm going to be that shortly after this conversation today, I'm going to be interviewing somebody about Mubarak Bella, who in Nigeria was recently sentenced to 24 years in prison for blasphemy.
Who are you going to be interviewing?
Yeah, I'm going to be interviewing Atheist Alliance International, I think, but also a representative of the Nigerian Humanist Association.
Very, very.
Did you
interesting.
hear, guys, about the Christian pastor who was beheaded in Egypt a couple
I
days
didn't.
ago?
I did
Let
not.
me pull the story up for you. But yeah, keep going.
Okay, so 73, of course, we brought it up already. Christians are kafirs because of the Holy Trinity. So non-Trinitarian Christians can still get away, but don't hedge your bets too much. So 75 is my next point.
Okay, jumping to 75. The Messiah, son of Mary, was only a messenger. Other messengers had come and gone before him. His mother was a virtuous woman. Both ate food like other mortals. See how clear we make these signs for them? See how deluded they are.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying, because see, this verse is trying to implement that like the Mother Mary is a human. So I always thought Christian thought Mother Mary was God.
No,
No, no, no, no, no.
no.
But it's what
Just
what
Jesus.
happens after you die. Then you supposedly become this supernatural shadow of yourself that has extra magic powers.
That's a lot of work for being dead.
At least in Christianity, I'm not gonna be a virgin every day if I went to heaven, so I can be opened every day.
Yeah, it's funny that they still call her the Virgin Mary because that was a long time ago.
And after giving birth, she's not a virgin anymore.
Yeah, and well, the Bible also talks about
Biologically.
Jesus having brothers, right?
Yeah.
So
I
she's
also-
the post-Virgin
I'm not
Mary.
sure. Is it? But he's having brothers. But are his brothers from Mary, or are they from other wives?
I don't know how they culturally determine that.
Yeah, neither do I. It's never clear in the Bible. Like his brothers are actually his blood brothers. Are they step brothers? Are we talking here, or they just brothers in faith? Right? It's not really clear there. 89 is my next point.
Okay, and thank you, Mohammed, for Mohammed, for sharing that story. I'm just looking at it now. So this was a Coptic priest who murdered an archpriest by stabbing him.
That's what looks like. Yeah, I heard
Yeah.
about it a couple times. I also just found another thing about attack on the church in Egypt. Strange stuff. I haven't heard about this, to be honest.
I've heard a lot of that. They're also always bombing churches in Egypt and killing and decapitating people who they found they are Shia. They're very strict, Egypt. It's more strict than Saudi Arabia. Sorry, with all respect to Egypt, but the religion there is very strict.
I had a couple of Egyptian friends who told me, they are Muslims, by the way, who I lived with them back in Lebanon a couple of years ago. They told me that there once was a rumor that the Christian in that village gonna destroy the mosque, and then it was only a rumor, because why would they do such a thing, right? They will be outnumbered. And just because of that rumor, their church was destroyed.
Yeah, Egypt had an unfortunate relatively long history, even in recent times, of blowing churches up during Christmas and New Year.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
people don't notice it that much because the Coptic calendar is off by quite a bit. So they blow
because
up
of
the
media
church.
also.
Right,
yeah,
right. But they have Christmas here around December, and the Coptic calendar is a couple of months away. So it just happens, and people don't associate that, oh, these people were actually celebrating Christmas at that point. And
Yeah,
that's
but
why they went to
the thing
church.
is, they are being killed. Even as like the police officers will stand there just standing there because don't want to interfere between civil problems.
Yeah, but religious
It's
freedom,
horrifying.
yeah.
Dan,
Yeah,
religious freedom. You can't
yeah, very freedom, lots of freedom.
you can't oblige that one.
Yeah, killing someone because his different religion. That's so much freedom. Yeah.
Yes. So my next note is 89.
So I have something at 80. Let me check it quick.
Yes.
Um, if that's the verse I want to talk about. Uh,
You prophets see many of them allying themselves with the disbelievers. How terrible is what their souls have stored up for them. God is angry with them, and they will remain tormented.
sorry, it is. Let me just check. It should be 86. Let me check.
Oh, 86. Okay, my
Yeah.
apologies.
Well, it's my bad.
والذين
Those who
كفروا
reject
وكذبوا.
those who reject the truth and deny our message will be the inhabitants of hellfire.
Yeah, that one
Yes.
I wanted to show it to Islamic Quranic Islam,
Yep.
because this one evidently says that those who
Yeah, it does say reject the truth is
disbelieve are
arguable,
people
but
of
Right.
hell.
And you know what word 86 uses?
كذبوا كفروا.
Kafaru.
Yes, and كذبوا actually, and who
It's
the infidels and people who doesn't believe the message, the Quran.
right.
so by infidel, because
Yeah.
I keep getting conflicting messages about what that means.
Disbelieve. It means disbelieve. Okay, but the kafara correctly in Arabic means I believe, but I cover it up. I hide my belief. Right. So this is something we discussed with the apologist guy, that I'm not actually an atheist because I cannot be an atheist. I actually believe in the existence of Allah, but I cover it up.
But
Right.
it's an infidel.
But it
Yeah,
is every time it's used that if you don't believe, then you are that. So
Yeah, because if that's true, it wouldn't say كفر and كذبوا بآياتنا, and they said that our message is wrong, is a lie. So even if I'm covering up, I'm literally saying I'm not believing the message.
right.
yeah. Islamic Quran or Quranic Islam rather is he's not Quran only. He believes in some of the Hadith. I had a long conversation with him at his channel. So I wish he was here to let us know. But the reason,
I wish I'd seen that conversation.
yeah, I can shoot you the link, but it's like almost 3 hours long.
Oh well, never mind.
Yeah,
So you barely warmed up.
Well,
we
let's say
barely warmed up. But the point is, if you take the Quran for what it is and don't go into the Hadith, you can come up with a different interpretation, right? And the other thing also is, a lot of people, me included, before they leave the faith, they go to Quran only, right? Because the Hadith has some really messed up stuff. So it's really always better to say, okay, forget the Hadith and just focus on the Quran, and
wait.
then a lot of things change.
I decide it's the opposite for me because our ahadith will make Islam so much better. When I just read the Quran without going to the scripts for to the hadith, then I was shocked because when I read the Quran without going back to the hadith, there are some savagery. There are it's savage. It's a savage book. So to me, Quran, the book, made me leave Islam completely.
Yeah, the thing is, the Shia has different set of hadith they agree on, and
Yeah,
that's because I think the Shia only takes from the Al Bayt, which are the people, the hadith
descendant
that
of
is,
Muhammad.
yeah, descendant of the Prophet. They only accept
Yeah.
the hadith by the
Not only
descendant.
them. No, no, not only them. There are lots of other references, but even except from Bukhari and lots of them, they have other references. I'm just saying that the hadith in all sects of Islam will beautify the Quran because if I find like about slavery, then you find the hadith. It's not saying about slavery. The hadith says like let your slaves go, which is the Quran doesn't say. So the Quran by itself, it's much more savage than the hadith. But there are savage hadiths, even in Shia. There
Yeah.
are fatwas that makes me sick to my stomach. We talked
Um,
about it, like tafkhid al-radi'a, which is
yeah,
found in Islam, in Sunnah and Shia. Like, and
yeah.
to people who doesn't know, tafkhid al-radi'a, if you as a that's very perfect pervert and
It's touching
pedophile
the,
alert. Pedophile
yeah,
alert. If you like a child, a baby, an infant, okay, and you feel sexually attracted to it, you can put your thing between her legs and come. So that's a fatwa in Sunni and Shia, and that's very sick. So there
But
are
help
bad
me
bad,
understand this. Are you saying that the Quran
not the
prohibits
hadith.
what?
That's the hadith, not the Quran.
Okay, so the hadiths prohibit pedophilia, but
No,
the
no,
Quran does
no,
not.
no.
no,
It says it's so the hadith, and this I think is only in Shia. I don't
no. There are
remember.
both. I have read it both. I
Yeah,
have went to both Sunni hadith and Shia hadith,
yeah, but
and there's
the that hadith permits that you can do what Diana said. You can, uh, yeah, put your thing uh, between the thighs of the
infant.
infant. Uh, yeah, it is messed up. But to my knowledge, it is only Shia thing.
No, actually, it is in both because I've read both, and there are a guy in a Arabic country, Sunni
Yeah,
Arabic country, who did that, and they accused. Actually, he went to prison, but he was innocent because of this verse, because it was found in the hadith, so he's innocent of any harm,
yeah,
and he's loose. Yes.
yeah. They are
Okay.
messed up with stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is a verse in, I'm not sure if it is in Nisa or whatever, that specifically describes how you can remarry the wives of your dead relative.
Yes,
And
there is.
one of
It
the
is a
items
mess up.
is a prepubescent wife.
Yeah, it
And
Uh,
there are
says
also
it says those who did not have menstruation,
yeah.
you get
yeah,
abstain from them for 3 months.
So if that is not enough, then I don't know what.
yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what? I'm amazed by these apologists' ability to find apology for such thing. So there, what they said is that's an adult woman, but she can't menstruate. So that's what you do when you divorce them. I'm just like amazed how they can't come up with this stuff.
There's no not even one alibi, one reasoning, one anything. Let's forget the hadith about the surah in Surah Nisa about marrying a girl in her before she has her cycle. You can marry her, but without penetration
Yeah,
until
I
she
would have
gets her
to.
period.
It would take me a little while to find it, but I did read in the Quran
Yeah,
where it was talking about remarrying girls who had been divorced and still had never menstruated.
Yeah, that's the one we're talking about. It's
Yeah,
Surah
that's the
An-Nisa.
Nisa.
Surah An-Nisa. واللاتي لم يحضن
Yes.
واللاتي
Wallahi lam yahidna, yeah.
Yeah.
واللاتي لم يحضن.
So yeah. So reading the Quran by itself made
Yeah.
me wanna. I don't wanna accept it. Accept that if there's a God and if suddenly God appears to me, and He's the same God who wrote the Quran, I don't wanna believe in Him. I don't give a fuck if I went to hell.
But listen, what I meant is, for example, in the Quran, there's no clear law against apostates, for example. That stuff you find only in the Hadith. There's other stuff you can find only in the Hadith, right?
But there is a clear rule. I guess we just read it.
Infidels, people who
Yeah.
were believers and then they stopped believing.
Yeah,
We
and
usually
also
call them ex-Muslims around here. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these are infidels, so
but not
they
only
should be
infidels,
more-
people with other religions, people with other beliefs, people
Murtadeen.
who became an atheist, people who were pagans. So everyone who doesn't
Yeah, if
believe in
you
Islam.
don't believe
the
correctly in
kafir
Islam,
umbrella.
you're out.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
the line
Yes.
is. Another note that I actually managed to write up for myself, right, as we're discussing here, is 587. This is a gem. It's a nail in the coffin.
I'll read it.
Yes.
You who believe, do not forbid the good things God has made lawful to you. Do not exceed the limits. God does not love those who exceed the limits.
Exactly. So
So I can't
if
be a
you are a
vegan.
believer, and the Quran said it's okay to have slaves, do not make that illegal.
But
If
not
you are
not
a believer and the Quran says it's okay to have 4 wives, you do not make that illegal. If you are underaged and the Quran said it's okay to marry underaged girls, then do not make that illegal. This is what
and
this verse entails.
yeah, and if you are a vegan, if you're allowed to eat meat, you can be a vegan. So
Right.
all of this.
You can't. If it's allowed for you, you can't make it forbidden.
So in the tafsir, it says this: the reason why this verse came is because there were a group of the prophet disciples or contemporaries who said, we're gonna abstain ourselves from sex, we're not gonna like
You froze.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so they said we're gonna abstain ourselves from this life's
Pleasure.
pleasures. Yeah, and we're
Yeah.
gonna do just like the pastors
So
do. So
monks
that,
are going to hell.
yeah, the monks. So the prophet told them, they asked them to come. Then he told them, I fast and I break fast. I pray. I sleep. I marry women. So those who do like me, they are from me, and those who don't, they aren't. So
So if an
that's
asexual human being is going to hell.
well, asexual
Yeah.
doesn't have sexual desires to begin
So
with.
it's going to hell.
Well, then
Great.
he is. It's not gonna do well either. Anyways, next one is 89.
89.
So broken oath. So if you swore on something, if you said, I'm going to sell you my camels if the sun comes up from the west tomorrow or something, and then it comes up from the west tomorrow and they say, well, I'm not selling you my camels anyways. So now you've broken a promise, you've broken an oath, you've broken an agreement.
Yeah.
So that kind of swearing and breaking is not keeping the oath, and it has a punishment, which is feeding 10 poor people. From the average the oath breaker eats or wears, So if you eat chili every day, then you feed your poor chili. If you are rich and you have chicken and goats and whatever, then you feed them that. Okay. Uh,
And
or if you can't do that, you can free a slave
exactly. So
because
slavery is okay in Islam.
right. So if you're really not well off, but you still have a slave, you can free a slave. Okay.
Yeah, this
Or
is actually one of the things that people, apologists, use as evidence that Islam has like a strong position against slavery. But
How?
it's nonsense, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
it's not. It's
Come.
actually. It's
Well, now
actually.
when I was young, people would use this verse to say that this was the method in which Islam got rid of slavery.
yeah,
But
same, yeah, same.
but it
Uh,
didn't. Right. That's the
yeah.
thing. It didn't. Even today, it didn't.
Well, there's another important point too, is that there's somewhere in the Quran where it says that as a punishment for some thing, some transgression, you should release one of your slaves. So this is a punishment to you that you release one of your slaves. So there's no
Yes.
moral
Exactly.
obligation. There is no moral obligation. There's not even a suggestion of a moral dilemma involved. That you should, of course, just release all of your slaves because you're a good person. No, that's not in there. You only
Yeah.
release one of your slaves if you're being punished for something.
Yeah, and it's
Because you're
never
gonna lose a
Exactly.
free labor.
It never
right.
says no.
It's
Don't own slaves.
it never says that, and it's never the only mandatory punishment. So if you
Because you
look
can
at it
fast
very,
3 days.
if you can fast 3 days, you don't have to release the slave. If you can feed 10 poor people with, you know, a portion of food, you're good. You don't have to free your slave. And freeing of a slave as a punishment to the slave owner for doing the not very nice thing that is described is never standing alone. It's never a mandatory punishment.
Yeah, we got another super chat from Robert Lawrence for $20. Thank you very much for that.
I just want to add to someone in the chat. 3D design is asking what's the difference between hadith and tafsir. So hadith is what the prophet says. Tafsir means the explanation of the verse.
Something
So
that we do in this show. That's a tafsir.
yeah. So there is couple tafsir books for the Quran, the two Jalals and Ibn Kathir and Qurtubi. These are the books that the Sunni people go back to
And there are
understand
other
the
books
Quran.
for the
There are
Shia
other
people.
books. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does the
Right.
Quran mentions that you can also inherit slaves, does it not?
Yes,
Yes.
their property. You
And you
inherit
can
them.
you can buy you can have sex with your slave underage girl.
Or not so underage.
What difference
girl.
does it make if a slave has or hasn't reached the age of consent?
It doesn't.
But by
Doesn't.
definition, they don't have consent.
No,
No.
because they're slaves.
So
No.
one of the funny things, there is a Muslim apologist who was saying you can have sex with your slaves, and people were saying, why do you have to have sex with them? Why can't you just like, okay, you have to slave them, but why do you have to have sex with them? And he said, because they have needs.
Yeah.
Because the slave has needs, and so
Sexual needs. Yeah.
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 Of freedom.
So you're
And
gonna honor a slave's needs, and the only need that you can think of is your own need being satisfied by the slave, not the slave's need to not be a slave.
Yeah.
There was one verse I used to read a lot, but I never understood. And after I became,
They need trauma.
Yeah, they certainly need trauma. And when I became like ex-Muslim, I read it and I understood it for the first time. It says those who you have them, you can have sex with them, right? And the reason this verse came is because I'd imagine the savagery. The prophet disciples and contemporaries, they captured the women in the war as slaves, and then they discovered that some of them are married, right? So, and you can't have sex with a married woman. So then the prophet had a divine, and he had that verse. So imagine how low one can go.
And it's not like the Quran doesn't forbid things that people did at the time, and we will come to this in this very surah very
Yes.
soon, very
Next.
soon. Just let me finish this one. I
Yeah.
find it strange that also you can 3 days of fasting. I find it strange. These are to be the order of not being able to do the first one, then do the next one, and so on. Also, feeding seems to include clothing too. I think this is the first time this comes up in this form. Like when you feed the 10 poor people, you can actually also give them clothing,
Yeah.
um, which is interesting in its own because it came up here. So you can understand it in the way that every place where the feeding of poor people comes up as a punishment, as a fee, as a ticket you need to pay, you can actually give them clothes if they don't need food.
Yeah. Feed them or give them a cloth or uh, free a slave
Or fast
or
3 days.
fast 3 days. So
To me, fasting is very simple 3 days. But I think back then, especially in the desert, and staying without water for 12 and more hours, that was very hard. So it's hard. It's easier to feed people, to give money to people, than fasting 3 days. I think that's why, because it's very easy to do whatever, say whatever, have break any oath, and then fast 3 days in
well,
the modern time,
it says
not back then.
those who can't, or those who who
Don't
can't
have money
feed, yeah,
or
can't feed
slaves,
or slave, then
they can fast 3 days.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the order of prevalence in this verse and on the other verses is actually an order of preference. I think it just happens to be in that order,
Yeah.
and
So
and you can pick and choose what the punishment you're gonna atone with, uh, based
yeah.
on what you want to do at the end of the day. So if you've broken an oath, you can free a slave, right?
Yeah.
Or you can feed them people, or just in case you can fast 3 days in a row.
Yeah. So "أو" in Arabic means or. So
Or
you're absolutely correct. But it
it's
says
not it's not a thumma, it's an or.
exactly,
So
it's not Thamma.
I
But
Somebody
agreed
it,
asked
with
a
Muhammad.
question. Somebody
but
asked whether was Buraz able to find references about the jizya being higher in amount than zakat.
The jizya is higher in amount than
Well, I
zakat.
mean, I think the question was, were you able to find references for that?
Not in the Quran per se, numerically, but it was obvious from historic reference, and I did check and look after that the people who were conquered prefer to join Islam so they don't pay the jizya because the zakat was less.
so
So
the thing that is
obviously it
known,
was more than the zakat.
yeah,
So they told them, hey, you can stay Christian or stay Zoroastrian or whatever, but we will put the jizya on you. Or you can become Muslim and you just pay the zakat at that point. And a lot of people just became Muslims out of that. So we don't know the exact numbers. Some references make the exact numbers on the currencies of the day, which I can't dereference. But the numbers are bigger for the jizya and smaller for the zakat.
In I don't know, in our references, the jizya have no number. It's just
exactly,
it's just put by the people who are asking for the jizya.
Yeah.
So if
yeah,
I kill someone by mistake and their parents want, his parents or someone, his family wants a jizya, they can specify a number they want. The zakat is limited to what you own,
No,
but
no,
the
no.
jizya is not limited. So it can be from $1 to $1 million to infinity, actually.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
of
This is
course,
something.
jizya is much more than zakat.
Yeah, the jizya is different, Diana. The jizya is when the ruler of a conquered province puts an extra tax on the non-Muslims.
So
Actually, there was quite a big of an uprise on the question when I think the Umayyad Caliphate basically said those regions which were conquered and turned into Islam after they are conquered should still pay the jizya. And they
yes,
were quite an
Bani Umayyah.
uprising. Bani Umayyah. So the
Yeah.
Umayyad Caliphate, one of the Umayyad Caliphate did this. And it was quite a row, apparently, because
Actually, yes, people who stayed
obviously you
on their
don't
religion
complain. Right.
had.
Obviously, you don't complain if somebody lowers your tax. You only complain when somebody increases your tax. This is a
Yes.
tax on a conquered population.
Yeah, so you for the zakah, it is 2.5% of your money, and there's so many rules to that. You know, it has to be maybe a working money or non-working money, something like that. I don't want to.
There are regulations.
Yeah. But for the jizya, there's no actual number, so it
Yeah.
was up to the discretion of the ruler back then. And historically, it's either been like if you're trying to tax farmers, you gotta take, let's say, 50% of their crops. But if you're gonna tax someone who's barely surviving, you're gonna tell them, okay, give me what you have or something like this. So there's no fixed number for it.
Yeah, verse
Okay,
90.
I hope that answered your question. Verse 90, please.
Yeah.
Verse 90.
You who believe intoxicants and gambling, idolatrous practices, and divining with arrows are repugnant acts, Satan's doing. Shun them so that you may prosper.
This is the
Yeah.
third and final iteration of the abrogation series that the alcohol consumption went through the Quran chronologically as it was. In the first one, it was yeah, okay, fine, but do it, whatever. The next
It has
one was
benefits and it has
benefits and it has harms, just like driving your car.
but the
right?
harm is more than the benefits, so avoid it. And was it the first one that it said don't pray while you're drunk?
Yes.
No, that's the second one.
Second one, yeah.
That's the second iteration. And this is the final iteration of the abrogation. So abrogation does and is happen, and this is how it works.
So just one thing, you notice that it doesn't say it's haram. It
Exactly.
says avoided.
It's rijsun min amal shaitan.
So avoid it. Not,
This is absolutely to be avoided.
but
Yeah.
not haram.
But not haram. So
Just
Quran
Someone
only-
This is
please
a
tell me the
verse.
difference.
Okay. Haram, when you say don't eat pigs, حرم عليكم, you should never ever, for any alibi in the world, you cannot eat pigs, pork, ever. But اجتنبوا, stay away. It's a bad thing. It's from the devil. Stay away from it. But not forever, ever. Don't do it. It's a rule. So, yeah.
Yeah, so
it's an abomination. It uses the word, the abomination.
Abomination. But it's not haram. Why doesn't
No,
it say?
it doesn't say haram.
Why doesn't it say haram?
Yeah, I'm
So
not
you
saying-
can drink alcohol and play and gamble. And
Yeah.
I don't know what Islam means, but what's Islam?
Islam Ansab.
That's a divining arrows. So basically, you go to
Oh,
the,
yeah.
the seer and
Yeah,
after
this
seer.
was
It used to do. They shoot an arrow when you say, okay, shall I load my camels with dates or shall I load them with
Well,
with
I
wine?
because
And
I'm
then-
Lebanese.
this used
And
to be
man-
a pagan practice.
Yeah,
They did
and
it
I'm
for
Lebanese.
their idol.
Yeah.
Because I'm Lebanese and man means zalame. So I thought it's
Yeah.
about homosexuality.
Islam.
So it's
Now
about
that-
homosexuality.
That's
So it's
a
not
fun-
haram, it's religious. I wanted to be that.
But unfortunately, it's just an abomination.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify something quick. When I became someone who only believes in Quran, one of the things that the person or Sheikh, if you want to call him, he was saying is drinking is not prohibited, and this is, it says it's rich. It says Ishanibu avoided. It says it's from the devil, but it doesn't say it's haram.
Yes, I
So
agree.
yeah, so for some time, that's why I mean, why when you go to the Sunnah, you find things more conclusive, and it was. That's why I believe that if you only read the Quran, it can be better.
Yeah, there's a couple of chat comments I want to point to. One of them is from Randolph Richardson, who says, "Fun fact, Muhammad, when he was a child, was abusively slapped by his alcoholic uncle when Muhammad asked him to stop drinking, and that's why he added alcohol prohibition to Islam." And the
Why did
previous
he
comment,
take so long to do it?
the
Yeah.
previous comment is from Dale Fleming, and says, "A question nobody has answered for me yet. Why does God, Allah, or whatever name you give it, need loyal worshippers so badly if they are truly the entity as described?" I'm gonna tender my own opinion about that. Is that this whole fantasy doesn't work if you're the only
Because
one
the
that believes
prophet
it.
needs loyal followers.
No,
Because the prophet needs loyal followers. That makes perfect sense. That's going in line with what I'm talking about. This fantasy doesn't work if you're the only one that believes it. You have to get other people to believe it too. And so you need loyal followers just so that you can pretend. That way, that's the only way to make your magic imaginary friends seem real.
And he believed at the beginning, he believed that it wasn't obligatory, but then the prophet changed his mind because he found that's not working, right? Because there were, I think we read it last session when he says there's no compulsion in religion, right? But I think that didn't work out for him, so he was like, okay.
No, that didn't work out very well.
okay, well, 91 will explain that because God says, or whatever prophet, whatever says, that devil wants to put hatred between you and from alcohol and gambling. Because when you drink alcohol and when you're occupied with gambling, you won't mention God so much and you won't pray. So God really needs you to mention Him all the time, 24/7. Alcohol will make you, because when you drink alcohol, you become like high, somewhat high, and you forgot about the myths you have been taught since you were a child.
So we are good people now because we mention Allah every couple of weeks.
Yes, they are.
Yes,
Yes.
sir. And speaking of which, if we go to the next verse, this is when it says 92, it says, and obey God and the prophet, and
Because you
be,
always have to obey the prophet. That's the
yeah,
real message here.
that's the thing. So this is the second time in Quran where it says explicitly that you have to obey the prophet. Yeah, that's my note on this verse.
Yep.
And I love how the same verse says, and if you disobey, know that the prophet only has to deliver the message. Right? So it is kind of contradictory. It's like, hey, if you're not gonna do what I'm gonna do, you're gonna go to hell. But hey, I only here to remind you, you know.
93 is actually interesting. Contrary to popular belief,
Yes.
Muslims are fine, blame free, if they end up eating otherwise forbidden food items unknowingly or out of necessity. As in,
Yeah.
only non Allah named for beef is available, or you simply don't know how the beef was slaughtered. Maybe it was a roadkill. What do you know, right?
Yeah.
You are not to
To be blamed for
blame
it.
for it.
Yeah.
So a lot
Yeah,
of the
if it's
who
for
hum,
survival.
well, it's your everyday eating actually.
Well, I also, this
So
is an important verse.
if
This is
you've
an
gone
important
to
verse
a,
from a Muslim perspective, because I know that there was that story that American soldiers were like dipping bullets in pig's blood to somehow defile the souls of Muslims, which is another reason that I'm glad I'm not Christian as well as not Muslim. But they thought they were defiling the souls of the Muslims. But this verse means that if you're shot with a bullet that was dipped in pig's blood, then it has no effect on you. You had no
Yes.
control of that intake.
Yeah, it's not your
Yes,
fault.
yes.
Like this is
This is a fair verse.
Yes, but this is not the first time this came up. You're not to blame if you end up eating these things anyways. So
Also, because when in Ramadan, if you accidentally, by mistake, by default, forgot that you're fasting and you drank water, and then after you drank, you remember that I'm fasting, your fasting will remain admitted to God
Right,
because
so I
you didn't do it
accidentally
on intention.
yes, I unassumingly open the kitchen, I find the cake there and I eat it. It's okay, I can still finish the fast for the day.
I'm a little confused about this because we are talking about desert people initially.
Yeah.
And so why would there be a prohibition during fasting? Why would there be a prohibition against water? Because there are times in the desert, especially if you're working, where you kind of need water to keep breathing.
Well,
Yes.
that's fasting. Fasting in Islam means from dawn till dusk, to sunset. You can't drink or eat or inhale or take anything in your mouth, actually, because you're fasting
You
for
said
God.
or inhale.
Yeah, because some hadith says that if you inhale gas or smoke or whatever, your fast will be broken.
Like you can't smoke, for example.
Yes,
Yeah, of
you
course.
can't smoke pot because it makes you feel great.
But
What
can't
or
smoke
tobacco?
anything.
Or tobacco.
But even like cologne and perfume, I can't put perfume when I'm
Yeah.
fasting because I'll inhale the fumes of the perfume.
You just walk down the street and you break everybody's fast on that
So
day.
these
Well, wearing
fatwas
what
are
I'm wearing, living in where I live, wearing what I'm wearing, living where I live now, and I'm live in a very people are fasting, and I'm literally wearing almost nothing. So I'm also breaking people fast.
yeah.
Because
Also,
I'm a devil.
Robert Lawrence is asking about injections. Injections are the same. So there is. I don't know if the audience know the word fatwa. Fatwa means when someone asks, like imam or sheikh, about something they don't know, and there's no clear definition for it, perhaps in the religion, then they make a fatwa for it.
Fatwa is another word for regulations.
Regulation, yeah. So there's always a question that asks every Ramadan: does the eye drop break your fasting? Because there's also, the asthma and inhaler or whatever. Also, a
Yes.
lot of people ask about it, right?
Yeah.
So, in my
There are-
understanding, the inhaler breaks your fasting. That's why I understand.
Yes.
Yeah,
Even the eye drops because it can, and the nose drops because it can enter. The eye drops, I don't think so because it won't enter your mouth. So, but the inhaler, yes, it will because there are sprays in your mouth.
there is usually also fatwas about injections, and in most cases they say, yeah, you should get your medication.
Yeah, but you're gonna fast the day and another
Well,
day.
You
Right.
can
No,
take
no,
your
no.
injection at night or before you fast.
If you are on a medication that you have to take every day to survive, you don't have to fast at all.
Yes,
Yes.
also that.
But
Because
say
ليس
you
على الأعرج حرج ولا على الأعمى حرج ولا. So you don't have to do these hard things if you are sick.
But I remember that, let's say you are on anti.
4039394039.
You got a
Okay.
message.
Sam from Mad Canada. About 10 impaired.
Yeah. I remember if you are on antibiotic, you will take the antibiotic the dosage that goes for 12 hours, not the one for 6 hours, so you can fast.
Antibiotic, it's not really actually no. If you take your injection before your fast before dusk, you can fast. but you can take an injection during the dusk. But in Islam, that's being also fair. If you're sick, like I'm diabetes or have cancer or whatever, uh, it's not obliged. I'm not obliged to fast because
Yeah.
I'm sick.
Yeah, you either pay money or you fast on another day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're not going to get better, if you have diabetes and you have to get injections every day, but then you don't have to fast. It's just you don't do it.
Correct.
Yeah,
Right?
you feed people.
You don't even have to do that. There is no
Yes.
hurry. It's nothing on you, right?
Yeah.
So there are plenty of we will let this pass because you're sick or you're ill. The one that you have to do the fast afterwards is occasional stuff. Like you ended up traveling for more than 80 kilometers, you don't have to fast for those days. You
Or you
ended
have
up,
your period.
or yeah, and
Oh
that.
yeah. That's right.
So you
Yeah.
have to fast that in another day because it's occasional. Even though it is planned, it's still occasional. But if you
Till
are
now,
right, but if
there's
you have a pancreas, a disease that doesn't go away, and it requires you to take the medication on time every day so that you can stay alive, then you don't have to fast and you don't have to redo for it.
Hello,
well, I have a
Khaled.
question.
Hello, Khaled.
Hello, Sam. How are you?
Right?
I'm good. How are you? I think the email Aaron sent, it said Central Time, right?
Well, I couldn't make it before this time anyway because
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds
Did
I
I
have
send
a
did I
question.
send the wrong time on the invitation?
Yeah, I think so. I think you
Yes.
said it's noon on Central Time.
Oh, my apologies. Yeah.
no, I thought it was
Most people
the
don't
north.
know Central Time, but they know Eastern Time because of New York and
Eastern.
Washington D.C. So I
Yeah.
normally put that one.
So, Khaled, I want to ask you, we are in verse 92, but I want to ask you, we were talking about that verse, I don't
86.
recall.
86.
Yeah, the one that says that إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب
Oh, no,
والأزلام
not this one. Oh.
رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه.
Hmm.
Is that mean that drinking is forbidden?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the whole
But
verse. The whole time is saying it's forbidden.
it doesn't.
So stay away from it.
But it says اجتنبوه, it doesn't say haram.
Yeah, I mean, some people put these things where they say no, you have to have the word haram for it to be forbidden. Well, it doesn't have to. I mean, in the end, it amounts to the same thing. When it says don't do something, it's the same as haram. So if ijtanibuhu, it's clear saying don't. And then it even asks, right? There's a rhetorical question. It says, that shaitan only wants to divert you from the remembrance of God and from prayer, etc.
Yeah.
فَهَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُنْتَهُونَ? Then will you not desist? That's a rhetorical question. Will you not do it? So yeah, it's definitely saying that. The idea behind it, of course, is that alcohol is the biggest killer, right? The drug which kills the most in the world by far from anything else. It is a huge source of a lot of harm in the world, isn't it?
Well, it's
a lot
the
of pain
cause
for
of and solution to all of
many
life's
problems.
problems.
Solution to many. Yeah, but the solutions, I don't think they're going to outweigh the costs, which are actual deaths of people, ruined lives, rapes in campuses, all of this. A lot of things happen because of drinking. So the interesting thing about this is the verse which comes a little bit later, 83, right? It talks about how ليس على الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات جناح فيما طعموا إذا ما اتقوا وآمنوا. So it's this verse is taken by some to say that as long as if you are able to maintain taqwa and ihsan, okay, and drink, then it's not a problem, right? As long as you're able to maintain that. So of course it's rejected by most of mainstream Islam. They say no. But that's what that verse is clearly it's coming after the prohibition of these things, right? Of khamr, right? And then it says, there is no blame on those who have faith and do good deeds in whatever they eat or whatever they taste, okay? if they maintain taqwa and have faith and do good deeds, then maintain taqwa and have faith, then maintain taqwa and do good. And God loves those who do good. So, I mean, the Quran does say that in khamr, in alcohol and stuff, there is a lot of benefit. It just says that the harm far outweighs the benefits.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone has any notes before 102? That's where my notes are.
95.
Next one. 95. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so no hunting while on the pilgrimage. Okay, I get that. But if one did it anyways because it is hard not to shoot that deer that was standing there looking at all the people running around the black box throwing stones at another stone, then the punishment is one, to kill another deer and give it to the poor. If not, then to feed the poor just one or something similar. This is like parking ticket. Yeah, it's one of those verses. You're not supposed to go hunting while you are doing the pilgrimage.
Yeah, and it says at the end, and those who do it again, God will take vengeance from them. So
Yeah,
I wonder what that vengeance is.
the vengeance, I think, is going to be they tie them to the devil's stone, and during Hajj, people will throw stones at them.
Yeah. The thing is, I
Well, I
never
want to
saw.
understand how
Yeah, go ahead.
how an omnipotent, all-powerful God, and we say that God is pure goodness, how he would have vengeance, seek vengeance.
I don't know.
It will turn the heat in hell a little bit higher.
I think the answer
No, I mean
lies. That-
okay, if God is pure and ultimate goodness,
Yeah.
why would God have vengeance?
Well, you will understand why in 102. The answer for you is in 102. So,
I know why. I'm
102.
just asking for other people who are listening. There's still people who are still Muslims.
Yeah, this is actually one which I want to comment at, verse 101.
101, yeah.
Yeah.
I still have a note on 96.
Okay, go ahead.
So the hunting ban during the Hajj and Umrah does not extend to the sea, only the land animals. So fishing and spearfishing is okay.
Yes, sir. هو الحلال الطهور ماؤه الحل ميتته. Everything in the sea is halal, even the dead things in the sea.
Except the things with scales, without scales.
Is it?
Yes. And Shia, you can't eat crab. You can't eat, yeah. And there's a verse about it. We have read it, the verse before that. I think I forgot what surah. There's a verse that fish without scales are forbidden.
I don't think there is one like
There
that.
is. Actually, there is. I'm
I've
gonna
never heard
check
it.
the verse and I'll get back to you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My next note is 99.
Okay.
And the big deal with 99, it's abrogated. It's actually extended by 95. وَمَا عَلَى الرَّسُولِ إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ. So Prophet only has to deliver the message. No, he can go after you if you don't believe it. Okay, that's 99.
Okay, that's another thing. When I say Quran only stuff, it's better than Quran and Sunnah, is because there's no obligation in that review. And verses like this, you can look at it and you can understand it that, hey, it's all right, do what you want. you're gonna be punished in the hereafter, not in this life.
Okay.
Okay.
So somebody wanted to talk about 100?
101.
101. That's also my comment. Please go ahead.
All believers don't ask about stuff that if you know it, it's gonna harm you. I think the translation.
يعني تبدأ لكم تسؤكم.
Yeah. And if you ask on it after God gives the divine, it will be clarified. Yeah, God is the most forgiving. God is forgiving and patient, I think. The translation.
Clement, right? Halim is like clement.
Okay. So let's start with you, Khalid. What do you think of this? Because, or you know what? I want to start because I want to say the reason of the divine in the Tafsir Ibn Kathir. It says, so basically what I understood is there was always people who keep asking questions, right? Let me see if I can pull that
Well,
up.
it's the example. I think it's people of Hud or whatever is in the Quran. They're supposed to sacrifice a camel, right?
Yeah.
They're supposed to not sacrifice a camel, and they kept asking questions so much until they got to the camel itself, and then they sacrificed it anyways. So this is kind of more of an elaborate. Don't do like that. Don't ask
Yeah,
questions because every clarification that you're going to get is going to make it worse. And I hold this to be a true verse. Everything that got clarified in the Quran was made much worse.
yeah. I mean, generally, well, it's the story of Moses and the cow, basically, right? It's not the camel. It's Moses and the children of Israel. So it's in like the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah when they were asked to sacrifice a cow, right? And if they had sacrificed any cow, it would have been sufficient, right?
It
They
would have
would
been
have
a done
sacrificed any
deal.
cow.
Like on day one, they just got a cow, they sacrificed it, done,
Yeah,
move
exactly.
on.
So
Right?
instead, they kept on asking, what color should it be? What type should it be? What this, what this? So they kept on asking. And of course, if you're going to ask, you're asking God what kind of color of the cow. He's going to choose the best looking cow. Okay. Which cow will it be? It's not going to be one which is mangy. It's going to be one which is very healthy. But so in the end, they confined in themselves basically by keep on asking these questions. God kept on answering them, and then they kept on getting more and more restrictions. So then there was only one cow that they could find which met that whole criteria, and the person who owned it wouldn't give it up without paying a huge amount of sums, right?
Eminent
So they
domain.
had to, so they almost never did because they had to pay a lot of money just because now no other cow would do because they kept on asking. So that's, yeah, it's just like Bogi says, it's like an elaboration of that. But of course, it's just extrapolated into more things. So don't ask about things if God has kept silence about some things, okay, out of a mercy. So not with, He's willing to accept your best efforts, basically. So don't ask for the extra restrictions. Don't ask exactly how this should be done. Like, for example, the issue of Salah now, right? So with the Quranist Muslims, they keep on looking around in the Quran. How do you pray from the Quran? It's not mentioned, which means from the Quranic perspective, God is willing to accept however you pray, pretty much. One thing which did get constricted because of the questions of the people in the Prophet's time was what they should spend. So you find that in the Quran. They ask you what you should spend. So they were just commanded to spend in charity, just an open statement, be charitable, right? But then they kept on asking, what should we spend? So then the answer came, whatever you spend, it should be something which is good for the parents, for the wayfarer, for the traveler, for the poor, etc. Whatever you do which is good, God knows it. But still, they kept on asking, no, we want to know exactly what we should spend. So then the answer came, spend what is excess. Whatever you have, which is your excess of your means, that's what you should spend. So that is now what is the actual, that's what Muslims should be doing. Muslims should be spending the excess of their wealth. So meaning not whole. It doesn't have to be in charity.
They should be spending excessively.
No, the excess, you know. يسألونك ماذا ينفقون قل العفو. العفو is like the what's the excess of what you need. So that's one of the things which is now created sort of like a sort of a hardship in terms of, you know, like the verse says here, into, you know, if you ask about things while the Quran is being sent down, then the answer will come. Okay, so instead you should just trust God to reveal what you need. Don't ask about the details, because maybe you will not like the details. It'll be difficult. That's basically how I get this verse.
So asking question is bad.
No, I mean, if you want to put it in that kind of like blanket statement, like asking that kind of question, no, I mean, there's many questions in the Quran which are questioned and answers, right? It's asking about ashya in tubda lakum tasukum. Don't ask about those things, okay, which if you get the answer for them, it might make life more difficult for you, right? So
But
like
if the
that.
original message didn't have the restrictions, why the questions would add restrictions in the first place?
Well, because they're asking. So like that example, right?
Khalid, are you talking?
Well, they asked, so the question would be, it doesn't
Sorry,
matter
was
what
I
cow you
talking?
kill.
Yeah, sorry, Diana, couldn't you hear me all that time?
Are you asking about are you talking about the musallamat in Shia?
No, I don't know about the Musallamat with the Shia, but I'm just
Musallamat
saying.
is don't ask questions that you don't want to hear the answer for.
Yeah, no, that's not what I mean. I mean that you're talking about asking for more rules, right? Asking how should we do this exactly, right? How much money should we spend exactly? Don't ask, okay? Just give charity, and God will accept it, right? And don't ask exactly how much you should be given or how much you should
Who
be given,
says
because
that
you might
in
not like the
Shia?
answer.
Because because in Shia, like the zakat is specified.
Yeah. Yeah, the Shia, I think they have it right in terms of zakat and sadaqah. They have it the right way around. The Sunnis don't.
Even the Sunnah, the same thing.
No, I'm talking about what does zakat means in the Shia understanding, and what sadaqah means in the Shia understanding. It's flipped. I know that. It's flipped. Like zakat is just general giving, right? You give to purify yourself, right? While sadaqah is actual like tax. It's fixed.
Yeah.
Actually,
I want to interject here because I don't want for us to divert from this verse, and I think Adam's question is valid. So if God wants something, right, and he has a clear vision of what he wants, and he said, do it, right? If you ask further questions, that shouldn't make God more restrictive, right? Should just clarify. Like if he said give money out, right, and they started to say which kind of money, or like about the cow, for example. If his original intent was any cow, he would have answered any cow. Go ahead, just grab any cow and kill and slaughter. So why would he add more restrictions as they asking questions?
Okay, that's a good question. It's to do with like the idea of God is majestic, like the idea of majesty, right? So let's say for you, for example, you say to somebody, okay, you tell somebody, give me, anything you want, right? You've got like somebody's got a bunch of different books, okay? Okay, there are some books which you like the most, right? You like more, right? And you say, okay, just give me a book, any book. And that's his mercy. The person gives you a book, and that's it. It's done. Okay. But if then when somebody says, no, tell me exactly what you want, and you choose the worst thing, you don't choose the best thing, that's a reflection of you, right? So it's about the idea that God's majesty means that he will choose what is the best. Okay. You ask God to choose, he's not going to choose the mangy thing, right? So they will ask.
If I asked for a book, then I mean a random book. But if I asked for the most prestigious book, let's say an ancient book, the original version of Art of War, for example, I would have asked for that specifically.
No, but if you say to me, okay, you want any book, and I say, okay, no, I don't want to give you any book. You choose the book that you really want. Okay, you see what I mean? Now I'm asking. No, I'm not saying you're not. I'm not. I don't like this direction you're giving me. Choose any book. I want you to specify. I want you
Yeah,
to specify.
but if I'm a god and my original thing is get any book, then
No,
I
the
would.
original, yeah, the original thing isn't just get any book. It's to sacrifice a cow. Okay, it didn't say
Okay.
sacrifice any cow, right? Sacrifice a cow,
Yeah.
right? And then they're saying, okay, we could sacrifice any cow, but we want to we want to know what cow you want, specifically you want.
And
Then
why
I
would
would-
a god want you to sacrifice a cow?
Well, that's the part of the story of that's in it's one of the Bani Israel, right? So it's got to do with the it's all the way in Surah 2, right? So the story is that the children of Israel, there was somebody who was murdered, right? And God wanted to bring him back to life. And the way he did that was by telling them, okay, sacrifice a cow. And then from a piece of that dead animal, the dead cow, strike the dead body of the man and you come back to life.
So God doesn't
there's a
have the
backstory.
ability. God does not have the ability to bring somebody back to life unless he kills something to trade.
No, it's not about that. It's trying to
Well,
show.
then why
like,
does God need you to sacrifice a cow?
Again, it's just got to do with a sign of showing, bringing life from the
But
dead.
you're not sacrificing. Never mind. There is no point in sacrificing a cow. There is no reason God would want you to sacrifice a cow. God doesn't need you to sacrifice a cow. Sacrificing a cow doesn't even do anything. It just means you killed a cow. Now, if you
Yeah.
eat the cow and you were going to kill the cow to eat it anyway, well, then that's one thing. But if you're just going to kill a cow to waste it, to burn it, to offer it to God, then it's just a waste, and there's no point or purpose behind it.
Well, it wasn't gonna
Actually,
be a waste.
actually, when they sacrifice like in Adha, it's cows or sheep or whatever, they sacrifice it and they kill it in the name of God to give it to poor people and people in need.
Oh, well, if they're going
To
to
be
give it to
fair.
people in need, people who would be starving if they didn't have
They don't
that cow,
sacrifice.
well, then, yeah, sacrifice a bunch of cows then.
Well, and I think in Sunni tradition it says third is for you, third is for your family, and third is for the needy people.
Yeah, generally animal sacrifice in Islam is to feed people.
Yeah,
I haven't seen a single exception to that anywhere in the book. So
yeah, it doesn't go to waste.
you're still wasting an animal. I mean,
Yeah, but you're not sacrificing it and putting it in the big volcano. Sorry, put it
right,
in the volcano.
right. You're not
You're
burning it and smelling
Yeah,
the fumes.
You're
and
feeding
stuff like
people.
I still agree that like God doesn't need anything to be sacrificed.
Well,
and-
it's in the name of God. God loves blood. Have you seen this in Quran?
Well, in terms of sacrifices, لا ينال الله دماؤها ولا لحومها, right? That the blood does not reach God, nor does the flesh reach God. But what reaches God is taqwa from you, right? So it's the piety. that
Where's
reaches God.
the taqwa in killing an animal? Really, there's no
Well,
taqwa
okay.
in that.
I mean, we can argue about that, but the point is that in the Quran, that's what it's saying. That the point is that it's not the blood, okay? It is the taqwa that reaches you, that reaches God.
Yeah,
The
give
taqwa
me
killing an
what's the
animal and feeding.
virtue? What's the virtue? Where is the virtue of killing an animal? Feeding people, that's a virtue, but killing an animal,
Yeah,
what's the virtue in that?
to feed the meat. Okay, the blood doesn't reach him, nor does the flesh. Where does the flesh go? It goes to the needy.
Yeah, well, nothing will reach him. He doesn't exist. But anyways,
Okay, well, that's
Okay.
interesting.
Okay,
and by the way, just
106,
one thing.
106.
One thing before, because Khalid said something. Sorry, a zakat in Shia and in Sunnah is the same. It's 2.5%, and the sadaqah. There's a sadaqah wajiba, which is a must do, and there's a sadaqah. Yeah, there's a sadaqah which is just giving people, helping people, just for in the name of God. Okay, but the zakat is the same in Sunnah and Shia.
Don't you have the khums as well? That goes into that, right?
Yeah, there's another thing. Not talking about the zakat, sadaqah, and the khums. Khums is another thing.
Okay.
Yeah, this is how you increase taxes in Islam.
Yes.
So the next verse it says, "The people who there are people who asked before you, and then they became disbelievers in that."
Yeah, so asking is bad. Okay, 106, please. If
Okay.
somebody is going to die in a foreign land during, say, a travel far away from home / Muslim land and has not stated a will, you will need two Muslims to witness his final will, or two non-Muslims will do too, I guess, if you can't get any. It is for the dying in a far away land without having made a will before leaving. This is another one of those ruling verses. This is a rule that if you haven't made a will and you're going to die in a foreign land where there are very few Muslims, maybe none, you can still make your will and have two people witness it, and they have to swear on Allah that they tell the truth about it. Now, I don't know if you manage to get two atheists to witness your will, how are they going to swear on Allah
But
for telling the
it
truth
says two people of
of the
Just
Muslims or
no
from them?
the wa'adlin mink. Oh yeah.
No adlin minkum, right?
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
two righteous Muslims or two others. Two others. They don't have to be righteous. So apparently, two atheists will do. The problem is
No,
those
they
two
have to be.
atheists.
They
The
have to be
two.
of justice as well. They have to be the wa'adlim. The
Well, how do
wa'adlim
you measure
minkum
that? But
أو
how do you
آخرين
measure
منكم.
that? How do you measure that?
Well,
Right.
I mean, we're going to get into the sort of
But
specifics on this.
that's
But the
not the
point is that the
that's not
people
the
of
real
justice.
problem. The real problem is they have to swear that they're telling the truth. Have you seen an atheist swear on a book?
Yeah, I mean, we've been through this. At this time, there's no atheists. There's nobody who's
Well,
atheist here.
that is something I'm
there
not willing
were
to accept.
No, at
there
the
were
time,
people
at the
who
time
doesn't
of the
believe.
Quran.
I obviously would not accept that statement at
Yeah.
all.
Well,
Yeah.
that's my point of view of it. That there were no atheists during the 7th century Arabia
There were
or most of the
people.
world.
Yes, there were. You don't know. You don't know. I can't say there were, but I can't say there were not. You can't know that.
Well, I mean, there's definitely no sign of any atheist. Everybody was
How do you
in
know that?
religion. Well, we know it. I mean, even now, the majority of the world is they say they believe in God, right? In the
But how
7th
do you know
century,
that?
it
How
just wasn't
can
a
you
concept of it.
definitely say by science or by any proof that there were no ever atheist people or
I mean, that's
non-believers or
that's like
whatsoever?
asking to prove a negative. What we know is that in 7th century Arabia, okay, everybody would believe of God. I mean, that's
No,
what was dominant. There was no, you can't find any evidence that there were atheists, right? That's what you have to. Isn't that
Okay,
the
so
atheist
in
thing, right?
Greece,
To prove that
in
God.
Greece in the 4th century and in the 5th century, there were plenty of atheists. But and that's only because we know, because they wrote about things like this.
Like
And you're saying that
Epicurus.
because nobody wrote about their atheism, that meant that didn't exist?
Well, everything that we have tells us that
Okay,
it
well,
didn't
you
exist.
can't make
We
a
have.
blanket statement. We know that there have been atheists in all times and all places. There are atheists even now in Sharia countries where they would be imprisoned or killed for being atheist, and yet they exist.
Okay, but again, look, we're gonna have to like prove that there were atheists, right? Not prove that there weren't, right? It's the same thing that we say right about God, right? Prove
Okay,
that
well,
God
you're
exists.
okay.
not that
I grant that this book is not addressing atheists, and that the people who wrote the book may not have been aware of atheists. But that's an entirely different statement that's saying that nobody in 7th century Arabia was atheist, because that you can't say that.
Okay,
Statistically, there have to have been atheists at that time in that
okay,
place.
okay. I mean, I can accept that. There's negligible numbers of atheists in Arabia at that time, but of course, this verse is talking about somebody who will swear to God. So let's say you're not going to pull out anybody and they say, okay, I'm an atheist. All right, fine, then you're not the one we want here, right? For this taking an oath for the will. You find somebody who will swear with God.
What if he went to India at that time, and this guy, and there were India in the 7th century, and he died, and there are pagans there or whatever. So pagans will not swear into God. So what will happen?
Well, I mean, and I don't know much about Hinduism, to be honest. As far as much as I know, which is, like I said, I don't know much about it, is that they do have the highest caste of Hinduism believe in one God, right?
I said
The
pagans,
Brahmins.
not Hinduism. Not Hinduism. Paganism.
Yeah, I mean, the pagans in the Quran all believed in God, right? So I'm not sure. I don't know, to be honest. But if they go to some other part of the world, there's usually everybody who has a belief in a supreme God, a supreme deity.
The
So if they swear on-
the pagans all believed in God. I have a problem with that too, because there's a lot
Okay.
of pagan religions that don't believe in, certainly not the Abrahamic God, and may not believe in a central God.
Okay, yes, okay, I can accept that. But here, the mushrikeen, which I mentioned in the Quran, they believe in God. Believe in God.
Okay, I have a quick question. So, Allah, does it mean God or does it mean Allah, the Islamic God?
No, I mean, it's Allah was known to the Arabs before Islam, right? And like I said in the Quran, there's many questioning of the mushrikeen, right? If you ask them who created the heavens and the earth, they will say Allah, right?
That's a claim. That's a claim. Because the narrative in Islam is they know the truth and they deny it. So
That's a narrative, but in terms of the Quran, it clearly shows that they know who God is, right? So they even say,
But what's
God
but
commanded
that
us this or commanded us
okay,
that.
okay. Khalid, if the Quran says so, it doesn't mean that it's true.
yeah.
No, I know, but look, I'm just saying that from what we're discussing here is this verse, right? All right. So from the perspective of this verse, right, the majority of people, let's say, at the time, did believe in God and would swear with God. You know, in the Quran you have it, وَأَقْسَمُوا بِاللَّهِ جَهْدَ أَيْمَانِهِمْ, right? And they swear by God with their most fervent oaths that if guidance comes to them, we will follow it. Okay, that's
But it
mentioned in the
says
Quran.
it says also in the Quran that when they go stray in the ocean, they pray to the God, right?
They pray to God Himself, yeah. And
What's
then when
the
they get
word?
to
What's the
yeah,
word used there?
دعوا
Allah.
الله مخلصين له الدين.
That's my question. So Allah means God,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
God.
yeah.
So isn't
And then
the father of the prophet called Abdullah?
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I find it strange because Allah is not al-ilah, right?
No,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm just like I have questions, but like I don't think
It's
there is
But
a
interesting thing.
Ilah is
conclusive
not
way.
also God. It's a deity.
Yeah,
So it's
Al
different
Ilah would mean
also.
the deity, exactly. I just
Yeah.
want to draw attention to the verse before that one that you mentioned. So 105, okay.
Yeah.
This is a sort of like you do you verse, right? So it says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا عليكم أنفسكم لا يضركم من ضل إذا اهتديتم, right? Or you who have faith, concern yourselves with your own selves. Those who have gone astray will not harm you if you hold to guidance. To God will you all be returned, and He will tell you the truth of what you used to do. Right. So that's like one of the verses, which is basically you do you, and those who are astray will not harm you if you keep to your own guidance.
Okay, I guess we will have to agree to disagree. What's the next note?
The next note is 5:110 to 120. And the note is interesting Redux version of the infancy Bible.
Okay.
For those who are familiar with that part of the non-existent Bible. We can delve into it. Another story like Daniel of the Trinity, denial of the Trinity and Jesus being God or part of God, but in the form of a conversation between Jesus and God, and that happens at the end day, the day of judgment. We can look into this, and I think it bears a discussion as to what are the items of the infancy Bible and where the heck it's gone, because it's not in today's Bibles at all.
Yeah, that's the one where Jesus killed a kid for mocking him.
Yeah, and he talked out of his womb, of his mother's womb, and stuff like that.
So you
That
mean
part-
110? You mean, right?
Yes, 110 and onwards to 120.
So 110, it says that I gave you the Holy Spirit. You can talk to the people while you're a kid and an older man. And I taught you the book, the Torah and Injil, which is Old Testament, New Testament, and
So
wisdom.
that brings into the question whether Jesus fulfilled the law, and a lot of Christians will say, well, he surpassed it. He abrogated the old laws, and this
I
one
mean,
says
the Moses, what is it called?
yes.
Yeah, the Old Testament.
Yes, so this one has a different verbiage in terms of you fulfill that, you keep the old laws.
So what I find interesting in this verse is it says that you can create a bird from mud or clay, and then you blow
That was
in it.
one of the claims in the infancy Bible. Jesus created a bird from clay, and he blew in it, and the clay bird flew away because
So it's
So
not talking about
and
pottery.
what
no, it's not talking about
about what?
pottery. Pottery.
Pottery.
Yeah. وتبع الأكمه هو الأبرص. الأبرص is the one with albino, right?
Yes.
Leopard.
And
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and Akmah is the deaf or the blind.
No, that's al-sum al-bukm. Those are the...
So what
No,
Akmah?
al-akbakh.
Al-Akma is a blind, the one who is born blind. You're frozen.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, al-akbakh was the person who was born blind.
Okay. And it says you can resurrect people from death.
Yes.
Talking about Jesus' miracles.
Okay.
Yeah, he's talking about the miracles performed by Jesus, and a lot of it is in the infancy Bible, but some of it is still available today.
Yeah.
I mean, this one of the things about this, right? About the bird, right? It goes back to like what Aaron was saying, right? Why not just create a bird popping out of existence? Why create, from clay a bird and then blow into it and then it becomes a bird alive? Why not just create one that pops into existence, right? Like that, the man and children of Israel. Why not just have the man come back to life? Why sacrifice a cow and hit him with a piece of it? Even with the story of Moses and the sea, why should Moses have to strike the sea in order for it to part? Why not just make the sea part, right?
Yeah. But like I fail to understand how a mud will turn into like organic machine and become a living thing. It has
And you
organs.
didn't
It has.
understand that. You didn't understand that. You didn't understand, but you understand how a blind person will see, and the dead will be resurrected. So
It's
that
a-
you
Yeah.
understand is
It's
the
a-
only the only matter here that hurts
Your
you, Muhammad,
priorities are
is the
wrong,
bird.
she's saying. Huh,
it's the magic trick
Yes,
when
you
you
are.
pull
It
the
is.
rabbit out of the hat. You pull a rabbit
The
out of
easiest
your
one
hat.
is pottery. Pottery is the easiest one.
Yes.
The other things like resurrecting people from death, a blind person seeing again, that's more difficult. That's
Well,
more
I should take the
impossible.
advice in 101 and not ask questions.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
That reminds me of an argument I had when I was a little kid, when some adult person, when I was like 8 years old, and this person's trying to proselytize, telling me how Jesus turned water into wine. and I didn't know the chemical construct of alcohol or fructose or any of that, but I knew that water was H2O. Now, as an adult, I figured out that the difference between that and alcohol was basically carbon. It's just how you integrate the carbon in with that. But I didn't know that as a little kid, of course. But I did know H2O because I thought everybody knew H2O, even at 8 years old. So I asked her how Jesus manipulated 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom to become whatever the molecular composition of alcohol is. And she just roared at me, "How dare you question God?"
Aaron, you were a nerd.
You question God? Whoa.
Forgot about that. Aaron, you're such a nerd at 8 years old.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you are not asking the right type of questions. So the 112.
The right type of question is when God says sacrifice the cow, you keep asking what color.
Yeah, I have so much objection on that one. So I'd love to finish the surah. There's only 7 verses left. We have around 40 minutes.
Yes.
Sure.
So it says 112. It says, and when the disciples said, "O Isa, son of Maryam, can your God send a Ma'idah?" What is the
A
Ma'idah?
table. A
A
table.
table.
A feast.
yeah.
Lord. A
A
feast.
table with food. A table
Yeah.
with food on it.
Yes. And he said, "Oh, believe, or taqullah, if you are believers."
Yeah, he was basically trying to go for the catering is closed after 8.
Yeah. So in the tafsir, it says something
But then
funny.
these verses from 112 till 1.
You're cutting off.
You cut off completely.
Okay, I'll say what it says in the tafsir. Will Diana come back? It says that God sent 7 whales on 7 gigantic breads, and they sent it to them till they ate, and they are full.
Does it say hoot?
Hoot, yes.
Hoot just means fish. I know now in the modern world,
Yes.
hoot means whale, but hoot is just fish.
Yeah, actually, it reminded me when Moses, I think, and Al-Khadr, they waited till Al-Hut came back to life, right?
Yeah, the hoot in the basket or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So when what's the prophet who lived in the
Yunus.
belly of the Hut, the whale?
Yunus.
It was a big fish, not a whale.
Yeah.
So how do you make
was
the
a big
difference? How do you know the difference
You
when
say-
they mean a whale meaning a whale and a whale meaning a fish?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know if they had those differences in Arabic at that time.
I was seeing another question in the chat that maybe we should pop in here. It says, "What's Aaron's answer as to why most Muslims claim lineage to Abraham but mock the faiths they claim to come from? Doesn't seem a good strategy from my point of view." And I guess they're talking about Judaism and then Christianity, since Islam is based on both of those.
I have the
Um,
answer.
Okay, and it is?
It is because the Jews and the Christianity became unbelievers and disbelievers and infidels, so therefore we hate them.
But
Okay,
clearly
I've
they
got-
didn't become infidels. They still believe in like, well, Christians obviously do believe in a different version of God than the Jews do. But Muslims still believe in the Jewish version of God. So they can't argue that the Jewish people don't believe.
But yes, but because they didn't, like the Jews didn't follow Jesus, and the Christians didn't follow Muhammad, so the religion is incomplete. It's about the prophet. All of it's about the prophet.
It's corrupted. It's corrupted.
Can I add some? Because this is actually
And also, the Jews were great political opponents in Medina.
I mean, this is something which I wanted to actually address in the surah, but because I came late, I didn't get a chance to. You went through the verses where it talks about let the people of the Torah, right, judge by what God has revealed in it. Let the people of the Injil, the Gospels, judge by what God has given in it, and whoever doesn't judge by what God has given. So in this surah, there's a lot of encouragement for the Jews and the Christians to actually be Jews and Christians. There's a lot of encouragement for that, right? That they should judge by what God has given them, right? There's that whole passage. It comes from around verse, what is it, around 44, right? Talking about how God sent the Torah, then how He sent the Gospels, and how let those people, actually follow them. And in the same surah again, it says, وَلْيَحْكُمْ أَهْلُ الْإِنْجِيلِ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ. And it says, لَسْتُمْ عَلَى شَيْءٍ حَتَّى تُقِيمُوا التَّوْرَاةَ وَالْإِنْجِيلَ. You have nothing until you establish the Torah and Injil. So this surah, which is the last surah to reveal, okay, it's actually giving this idea that the Jews and Christians should be following what they have. So it's not that Islam is cutting away from that. And the most important verse in all of that is the verse 48, which is a really, really important verse in terms of the idea of how the Quran views other religions in terms of plurality, right? So it says it's basically saying after it speaks about the Torah and Injil, and it says, and we sent the book to you, Muhammad, okay, which confirms what came before it and is a guardian over it. So you judge by what you have, okay? And then it says, لِكُلٍّ جَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ شِرْعَةً مِنْهَاجًا. To each of you, we have given your own separate shari'as and ways. And if God had willed, He would have made you all one people. But it is His will that He should test you by the different things which He has given you, right? Then it says, the thrust of the verse says, فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. So race to good deeds, race to goodness. To God you will all be returned, and it is He who will inform you about that which you have disagreed. And of course, also in this surah, a little bit later, it talks about how, the Jews, the Christians, the Sabians, anybody who has faith in God, the last day and does good deeds, no fear upon them, nor shall they grieve. So that, when you go to the idea of abrogation, all right, and if you consider this surah is the last surah, then that is the final stance if you want to accept this idea of
don't
abrogation.
consider this surah to be the last surah.
I know. But this is actually why it was pushed to not be the last surah. And instead, Surah 9 was pushed to be the last surah. Okay,
but what you said about even the Christians and the Jews, in this surah, verse 86 says, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَكَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ الْجَحِيمِ.
Yeah.
So that contradicts what you're saying.
No, because I'm not saying that the Jews and the Christians are الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. All right, they are the Jews and the Christians. Okay?
So they're going to
among
hell.
them, no, they are not. Again, if you're going to you can chop up the whole surah and not sort of like try to see it together as one piece. Okay.
Who are these people in verse 86? Who are going to hell? Just put my hand on them. I just want to know those people.
الذين كفروا. Yes, those who have كفروا.
وكذبوا بآياتنا. Which are?
No, it doesn't have to be Jews and Christians.
Because next to okay. Then he says, كفر الذين قالوا الله ثالث ثالوث وعيسى ابن عيسى هو الله. So what?
Yeah, we talked about that after. We talked about that a little bit last time. Do you remember after the show?
I will talk about before you come in. Today.
Yeah, we talked a little about it, but I mean, I don't want to divert it too much because we're almost at the end of the surah. But remember, I was saying that the first part of that says لقد كفر who الذين قالوا, those who have said this. Okay, so they have.
I don't want to go back to that.
Yeah,
just
that's
proceed
how I
in the verse.
Yeah, that's how I see it. So I was just trying to answer the gentleman's question you asked about that. So this surah, it's not trying to cut off the Jews and the Christians from their heritage at all. Okay, it's not about that. It's actually encouraging the Jews and Christians to follow what God has revealed to them. And it says, لَسْتُمْ عَلَى شَيْءٍ. You have nothing until you establish the Torah and Injil and what has been revealed to you from your Lord. Okay, which means if they do establish it, they do have something. That's it.
Does anyone else in the Islamic world think that?
I'm getting more and more cut off from the Islamic world, so I'm not sure. Some do.
You should check.
But most don't. Yeah,
You
most
should
don't.
check. You should check to have an interpretation that's generally agreed upon.
I don't care
Okay,
about the generally agreed upon interpretation myself.
right, but that's the problem here, and is that Islam is supposed to have been understood properly by Muhammad and his followers, and everything else that was added to it later on was just to expand the understanding of what was already understood. And it precipitated certain types of behavior, that understanding that was established very early on. So when you tell me that these things don't mean these things because they just don't, I can tell you that literally nobody in the Islamic world understands it that way.
I often
Anyways,
have
Well,
arguments that are
you said it right there in terms of, later on, certain understandings were expanded upon them. Okay, but that expansion of the understandings, I think it's a divergence. It's a co-opting of it, and it happens with every religion, right? Every major religion that becomes organized and gains power, and there was a huge expansion of Islam, right? The Arab Empire just exploded.
okay, well, early on, Muslims went to war with those who did not believe.
They went to
They
war with
cursed.
the Meccans.
No,
No,
they
they
went
went.
to war with many other people who did not believe.
No, they went
Even
around
if,
Mecca. You
no,
need to.
not was just that. Not
No,
just that.
between Mecca and Medina, there were a huge number of pagan tribes, and all around Medina as well.
There
They did
were
not fight
tribes
with any
and
of them.
people who did not believe Muhammad and was making fun of it, and Muhammad was sending people to go and kill them. And
No,
it's not
again, look,
one incident, it's
with
multiple incidences. So don't tell me that that was a misunderstanding of the Quran.
no, it's
Okay?
not. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
Let's move
that they
on from this
fought
point
with
because we don't
Meccans
have
Yes,
2 days
and
yes,
their
on
we
this.
allies.
We really don't want to
let's
spend
finish.
2 more days on this, okay?
Yes,
116,
finish
the
this
next
surah.
good point, and then we move on because 110 to 120 is all the same thing. 116.
when God says, Jesus, son of Mary, did you say to people, take me and my mother as two gods alongside God? He will say, may you be exalted. I would never say what I had no right to say. If I had said such a thing, you would have known it. You know all that is within me, though I do not know what is within you. You alone have full knowledge of all things unseen.
Yeah. What percentage of Christians today are Trinitarians?
So
The vast majority of them.
that's what I was mentioning when he said Isa and his mom, right? Take me
Yeah.
gods.
Yeah.
So I always thought that Trinity meant God, Isa, and Mary. That's what I understood.
Yeah, but it's a practice of Christianity. I've never heard that Mary is a god.
Well, what
Well,
I'm trying to say is
some
the
Catholics
Quran
do
maybe
hold her
got
as
it
a
wrong.
saint.
Catholics hold saints as
We
what do you
do.
call it?
Islam hold it
Intercessors.
as a saint also.
Yeah. So a lot of Christians consider Mary to be holy, right?
And Muslims.
And
Not in the
Muslims.
same way. What's mentioned here is that she was taken as an ilah, as a god, right? So in the Catholics, the Protestants will say they're all Mary worshippers, right? I think that's how they are
Yeah.
No,
derogatory for them.
I know Catholics. They don't say that they don't worship Mary.
No, he was saying that one of the derogatory claims about Catholics, and I certainly know this from, American Protestants often criticize Catholics as being Mary worshiping pagans. It doesn't mean that it's accurate. It's just what Protestants say. If you want to know
Yeah,
what another religion believes, don't ask a Baptist.
yeah. Because like we have Catholics, we lots of Catholics in Lebanon, lots of Catholics. So they never say it says Jesus is God and the Son of God. They never said Mary is God.
Yeah, I think this is more about the practical, because one criticism of this verse is they say that the Quran got the Trinity wrong, right? So the Trinity is God, is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And here this
No,
verse is saying
yeah, but
the
it's not
Father,
right.
God, and Maryam. And they say, okay, here the Quran has got the Trinity wrong, all right? But this is really think of the Holy Ghost, right? Nobody's ever, I don't know much about Christians, but I've never heard of Christians praying to the Holy Ghost as if it is a living
they
figure.
do.
right?
There is wait. بسم الاب والابن والروح القدس.
Yeah,
I have
in the
heard all
name.
the Christians say that.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about, like, for example, you hear Catholics will pray to Mary. They will ask her, like, "Oh
Yes,
Mary,"
but
is that right?
that
Aaron,
that
I'm
in
not
particular with
as well
Catholics
versed
is
on this, but
No,
intercession.
let him finish.
yeah, what I know is that people, like, from Christians, you find those who pray to Jesus, and you'll find those who pray to Mary. Okay, as
Oh.
in worshipful service towards them. Oh Mary, send the Holy Spirit. Oh Jesus, send the Holy Spirit. That kind of stuff.
Yeah,
They
because
say
like
don't
in
find-
Lebanon they say Ya Harisa or Mother
no,
Mary.
Harisa is another thing. Oh no. Harisa is a saint. There's a different thing. Okay. So there's a lot of saints in Catholic and in Maronites. There are a lot of Catholic, a lot of saints. So have Mar Sharbil, Mar Butros, Mar Harisa. This have nothing to do with worshiping Mary. They ask Mary for being like a Shafi'a in Islam. Like I ask, as a Shia ask the Hussein and the Ali to please be Shafi'a lana, to say speak on our behalf when we die, but they don't worship them.
I think
Yeah, I
we
mean,
could argue about what constitutes worship, but there are quite a few Catholics who do have portraits, paintings, tattoos of Mary in a way that certainly looks like worship for me as an outsider. But I'm going to leave that alone. There's a couple of questions from Darth Revan that I wanted to pose here real quick. For Quranic Islam, then why do modern Muslims talk down to Christians and Jews being at speaker's corner? Aaron can attest to this, I'm sure.
yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things which is, well, it's basically, put it bluntly, it's forbidden in the Quran, right? So in the Quran, specifically with regard to the people of the book, the Quran says, لا تجادل أهل الكتاب إلا بالتي هي أحسن. Do not debate or argue with the people of the book except in what is beautiful, in a beautiful way. إلا بالتي
And
هي
there
أحسن.
are other verses. أقيموا حد السيف. Kill them.
No, there's no حقيم حد السيف in the Quran, but look,
There's something like that.
Anyway, when we're talking about the speaker's corner sort of arguments that you see, I hate them myself. This sort of stuff, which is, I mean, Ahmed Didat was the first person to sort of do that, popularize that. He sort of got away with it because he was very charming. He was like an old man, charming kind of person. But then you had the Zaik, Naik, those people, and people in speaker's corner, the way they act towards the Jews and Christians in a very belligerent way. Okay, what I'm saying is that in that kind of discourse, the Quran is literally specifying that, okay? Do not argue with the people of the book except in a beautiful way, right? So you're right, that does happen. But if you ask every time you say, okay, why do Muslims do this? When we're talking about something which is in the Quran, you'll have a huge list, okay? You'll have a huge list.
I'll take that as a fair answer. Simply because I've got somebody who says that the Islamic Education Research Association, whatever, IERA, that they are in the wrong for their conduct, which I thought was already obvious to all else. Okay, so and then there's a second question, because the modern Muslim I see talks about how the Christians do not have the Injil or the Jews have proper Torah. They actively done on the well. Okay, so never mind. You've already addressed that. We'll leave it go. Okay, so
Bible, by the way,
are we finished with Surah 5?
There's one thing I want to mention about this last page. This might not be something which the Christians will like, but of course in Islam we have the idea that Jesus is coming back as well. I mean, in traditional Islam, there's hadiths, narrations that there's a second coming of Jesus. It's particularly strong with the Sunnis strong, with the Shia it's even more strong because it's tied with Al-Mahdi and the return of Mahdi, all of that stuff. But all of that, just by looking at this last page of the Quran, that last end of the surah, it's very obvious that Jesus is not coming back. Okay, very obvious when you read the dialogue of God speaking to Jesus in this is on Day of Judgment, right? So God is speaking to Jesus. Did you tell people to worship me? No, I was a witness over them while I was with them. But then when you made me die, you were the one who was witness over them. There is no indication here that Jesus is coming back for a second coming. That he's going to.
Jesus said that God made him die.
He killed it.
Yeah,
Yes.
in this verse, okay, فَلَمَّا تُوَفَّيْتَنِي كنت أنت
I
رقيب
thought
عليهم.
the Muslim tradition was that Jesus never died, that he continued living for centuries.
Yeah, that's like I said, that's the tradition that's entered in. It's in the narrations, all right?
Yes.
But it's obvious if you just reading from this surah. No, he died. Okay, he died a natural death, and he's not coming back. There is no second coming from the Quranic perspective. All right. Some people will try to argue it against it, but just reading this, it's obvious. This dialogue that's happening between God and Jesus on the Day of Judgment. All right. It's obvious Jesus is not coming back for a second coming. So that's just one thing I want to point it out. Other thing is just in this verse, right? So after that verse you mentioned where Jesus is saying, I did not tell them to worship me or my mother. Okay, then Jesus says, if you punish them, then they are your servants. But if you forgive them, then you are the most merciful, right? إن تعذبهم فإنهم عبادك وإن تغفر لهم فإنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. If you forgive them, then you are the Aziz al-Hakim. And then you have the last verse here. And again, I firmly believe that this surah is the last surah revealed. Okay, the surah 9 is made it's put past this just for the idea of abrogation so you can say, okay, now we can attack everybody. So you have the last verse here which says, قال الله هذا يوم ينفع الصادقين صدقهم. So who will he forgive? Right? Saying this is a day where the truthfulness of the truthful ones will benefit them. Okay, for them is gardens underneath which rivers flow, to abide therein forever. God is pleased with them, and they with Him, and that is the supreme
Victory.
The supreme victory. Okay, so that's like the main proclamation of God on the Day of Judgment, right? That this is the day in which the honesty of the honest will benefit them. Right, and that's related to the past verses where Jesus is saying, if you punish them, they are your servants, and if you forgive them, then you are the mighty, the wise.
So do you think God will forgive every single human being because he can?
No, I think He will forgive those who are worthy of forgiveness. I think it comes down to that. I don't think. I mean, when we spoke a little bit about that last time. How arbitrary that God will just forgive, like pulling out of a hat, right? Rolling the dice. Who is going to forgive? Who isn't going to forgive? No, it comes down to, like this verse says, honesty, right?
So do you think, Khalid, do you think that putting a human being, any creature, in suffering in hell for eternity and being burned and resurrected and burned and resurrected and burned and resurrected for eternity is by any chance fair?
Yeah, I don't. I believe that the hellfire is eternal. It's eternal, but the punishment in it is finite. Okay, so I believe in a finite punishment.
So what
even though
does
it's
the
eternal.
word Khalidina fiha mean?
I think that deserves its own show. I think.
Yeah.
So let's not tackle that right now. All right. So if we are done with
Yeah.
Surah 5, I meant to schedule some other talks with Khalid about other things, but ended up getting wrapped up because this month for me is stupid busy. I can't go into all the reasons why, but I just don't have time to schedule all the things that I wanted to do.
No problem.
But and I'm going to be very pressed to do the one 2 weeks from now. If we do it if we meet on the 24th, to discuss Surah 9, which Surah 9 and 110 should be the very end of the
Yes.
Quran for the series. All right, so everybody's good with the 24th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it'll be a challenge for me to put something together that fast, especially since I fly out in a couple of days to Atlanta to American Atheist National Convention, and I'll be involved in that for almost a week. So I don't know how I'm going to get any work done.
What? And you're traveling for expedition, right?
I'm sorry?
And you're traveling for a fossil expedition or something?
Oh, yeah, that's later in the summer, though.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I will see everybody on the 24th.
Okay,
See you.
sounds good.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, take care, everyone.